Welcome, everyone. The inaugural Mammoth Film Festival. I'm Chris Gore. I'll be hosting this panel, which we just decided just before you guys came up on stage that the theme of this panel is going to be leveling up in the industry. So let me introduce our esteemed guest, Anthony Hemingway. Big round of applause. And
I'm leveling up. I'm going to level up.
And Kyle Tekiela.
Woo! I'm nobody. They just picked me up off the street.
We'll level them up.
So,
Right.
so on that theme, what would you say is the thing that you're most proud of in your career up to now? What element of it that you're most proud of?
Who wants to go first?
Project or yeah.
You know, I think I'm so thrilled and blessed to have opportunities to be able to, I think, reach people and affect change. And the material and stories that I've had a great fortune of being a part of in my career have really leaned into just the, humanity and really trying to look at our everyday reality and its complexions, variety and just reflecting the world we live in. Nina Simone has a great quote that I love, which is an artist's responsibility or an artist's duty is to reflect the world in which you live. And I think that's really important. It gives us an opportunity to really contribute to what we do in the world we live in. And what greater opportunity than to have what we love to do and are passionate at doing and have fun telling stories.
I should have gone first. This is embarrassing now. Why did you have to level up that hard? I guess it's, as a young filmmaker, it's being able to be even in a position to tell a story that people will see. And then after a few of those, being in a position to tell a really, really great story that people need to see, and being able to then be provided with projects that kind of, they level up, right? They're projects that, they're fun, but they also have a very important message, and they contribute in a way to society a little bit more than just your standard entertainment. And so I think that's what I strive for now. Moving up forward, it's not about just having a cool project. It's about having a project that is important to me and that matters. So.
And a question for both of you on that theme of leveling up. If you could go back in time to the younger version of yourself and say you could speak to Lil Anthony and give Lil Anthony some advice. Some advice.
We don't want to go there.
Yeah, maybe just to avoid some of the mistakes you've made along the way. What would you tell the young version of yourself?
Anthony, as I was called when I was younger. I'm not sure I would tell myself anything different, to be honest. I think, our journey is designed in the way that it should be. And I think, our growth comes from experience and the mistakes, the fuck-ups, all of it, I think, is really a contribution to just where we are. I think I'm never afraid of a rainy day, because I think through the storm, something comes out of that, and as they say, it takes water to grow something.
That's exactly what it is. Everybody write that down.
I messed that all up.
Can we tweet that? Who's live tweeting this?
I'm thankful for my journey, because every step I can look back and realize that it was a stepping stone to where I am today.
Great. Kyle, same question. Like, if you could go back and talk to your younger self and say, do this thing, what would you say?
I feel like I kind of echo his, really nothing. Every stupid thing or every horrible decision I felt like I made at the time ended up being, in the long run, the right one, because it put me in the path with the people and the opportunities that got me to actually be sitting here right now next to literally a living entertainment legend.
Stop.
That's right. I'm going to do that.
Just stop.
I'm going to keep going.
Right.
And
I'm going to level you out.
I mean, really, I don't know how old you guys are. Obviously it's a pretty mixed bag in here, but I'm 33. Just came off a film called Mudbound, which you may or may not have seen. Thank you. And and literally the whole path that got me to make that film, which is, I believe is an incredible film. It started with just so much bullshitting at first as a young filmmaker that has no idea who I am. just keep talking, keep working, keep grinding, keep meeting people, keep showing up, keep, being better than the day before. And essentially, people will start letting you in their world, these people that, that are a step above or whatever. And that's kind of how you do it. I mean, it is 100% a relationship business, and you cannot and will not be able to do it alone. So just stay positive, find good material, and prove yourself worthy, and spend the time. Sometimes it takes longer than others, but that is really the best advice I could ever give myself, is just keep going. Don't stop.
I want to add to that, and just sitting here thinking about that more, and to the question that you asked, Chris. Depending on how your childhood was, it's like I remember back when I was a kid, playing with Star Wars toys and everything like that. And as we go through life and really start to deal with just the ideals that we have to deal with on a daily basis, we're robbed from so much hope, and just excitement, and things just get taken away from you. Myself, I had mortality that I had to deal with as a child. My sister died when she was 7 years old, and it was something that kind of became a part of what I wanted to see. I feel like a lot of times as we grow older, we want to reflect and look back and become or try to create the things that we needed as a child, and so dealing with those things and depending on where you come from and what you deal with, I think, sometimes you can have a really great childhood and just have all the fun and excitement in the world, and sometimes just depending on, your everyday and your own reality, things are really kind of taken away from you that just you have no control of. It's trying to get back to that excitement now, so I would tell myself to really enjoy every moment, to not take for granted anything, and to really cherish every moment.
Keeping on the theme of leveling up, I mean, you're both very accomplished. I mean, have done incredible things at this point in your careers. Is there a challenge you face right now? What's your next step in leveling up, and what are you working on to get to that next level? So if you had to really dig deep and take a look at yourself, what are you facing at this moment in taking yourselves to the next level? Because I kind of feel we're always on that journey, right? We're always trying to improve and get to the next place. And if you had any insight on that, question for both of you. So,
yeah, it's kind of a lot in this answer. So, kind of going back to what he's saying about your younger days, when I was first getting started, I was extremely optimistic about everything and everybody, and like, oh man, don't worry, it's gonna be totally fine. They'll take care of you. But most people are, it sounds horrible, most people are pretty terrible, to be honest, when you get down to it. We run into some horrible people in this industry. And like the young filmmaker doesn't want to think that's the actual case. They want to be like, oh, everyone's going to be cool. As long as I do a good job, they'll take care of me. They'll cover, CYA, they'll cover my ass. And that is not the case. So the biggest thing for me, the biggest hurdle I'd say getting up to literally this moment right now is realizing that you do have to take care of yourself, and then shedding all the bad people from your life. There's so many good people out there that there's no reason to partner up or do business with bad people. Even if it seems like that project at that particular moment in your life is like, oh my God, this is an opportunity I have to do. Maybe early on, everyone gets screwed a couple times in their career. I know I did, for sure. And that's part of what got me to this point. But there comes a point in your life when you just have to say, all right, that's it. Like, I know who in my life now, and I've got a network enough of people that I can trust and that I actually love, that I'm only going to continue working with at this point. And there's no room for the BS anymore. And that, to me, even though it might take away, and that's actually an interesting thing too, because you have so many times you have to say no, and you read so many scripts. It makes my life so much easier now to be like, oh no, I'm only going to take scripts from people that I already trust. And so, like, that just, my whole life is easier now. Do you feel the same way?
Very valid point, honestly, because it is, you have to be careful. You can't forget about self-care. And it's very necessary. I think also there's nothing wrong with being in that deserted place. I used to struggle with that a lot because I am a very people's person. I love people. I love my friends and family, and I just love the social aspect of being able to just, vibe and share and give and all that comes with it. I think it really kind of feeds, my creativity in a way, but there are times when you got to go hard. You are, start to fall away from that, and you get pulled away and it starts to tug on you. I know I've struggled with that a lot because I start to go deep and hard, and then there's a disconnect from my association or communication, and and it's such not a reflection on my not wanting to. It's just that I feel like sometimes my purpose has me doing what I'm doing, and it's a struggle because a lot of people don't understand it, and they try to give you a hard time, but just never feel bad or don't ever feel like you're not doing what you're not supposed to be doing, or not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that you're a bad person because you're just not associating with anybody. It's like you have to, sometimes it's necessary, it's required, I think, to kind of get lost and go into your own bubble sometimes and create, and it's nothing wrong with it. But I struggle with that a lot because I felt like, oh my God, I'm such a bad friend, I'm such a bad family member, and it was like, and some people really make you feel bad, like they really like, oh my God, you're not that busy, like, oh, da 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 da, like, but no one really understands what you're dealing with or what you're going through, so you have to be confident and comfortable with where you are and what you're doing.
I was going to say, Kyle, that thankfully some of these horrible people are no longer working in this industry. Because
there's still plenty out there, man.
I was going to say,
there's only like 5 people. There's still like 3,000 more.
I've run across my share of dirtbags for sure, but I'm glad that many of them are being called out. But I'd like to take it to the audience actually and think about if there's an area you need to level up in, and we can get some advice from our esteemed panel here. Anyone that would like to raise their hand and ask a question, and maybe get some advice or help, or just a question for these gentlemen, raise your hands high. And yes, sir, right there in the back. Speak loudly for the cameras.
At what point did you realize you wanted to get management or representation, and how did you go about approaching that? And were there some mistakes you made that you wish maybe you had approached this person differently and done something differently?
I think you want it right away. Everyone is like, I need it, help. And of course we know the reality where depending on what level of representation you're trying to approach will determine and dictate, I think, their interest in you. I remember when I first started out, I had great advice from a producer friend of mine that I worked with for a long time, and she just said that, it's those things that are that help you understand that process, which is it's not a marriage, and it's really all about the relationship that you will come to find and build with whomever is representing you. It doesn't necessarily really require or mean that you have to go for the top big agency. If it happens, great. But if it doesn't, it's really about, because you can get someone at a small boutique agency that is hungry and aggressive and has just the same amount of relationships as the person at the larger agency, and they can still do the work and get it done for you. So it is a matter of, I think, just, one, trying to be patient, trying not to be so desperate, because a lot of times desperation makes us make choices we don't really necessarily need to make. And it's just getting out there and trying to, meet as many as you can. I remember calling 6 agents when I first started. 3 of them got back to me. Those are the 3 that I met with. And I then had to deliberate and try to figure out which one I was going to go with. With that advice, I was really looking for the one who kind of understood me and at least heard me, and wasn't trying to come in so aggressive of, because they're all different. They all have a different process. And it's about finding the one that really works for you, really.
I don't have representation. Is anybody in here an agent? It depends on who you are. I'm a producer. necessarily need one yet. I mean, that will probably change one day. I mean, you have more experience with that. You're a writer, director, producer, triple threat, extraordinarily dressed human being.
This guy over here.
But,
Looking at himself in the mirror.
Can I ask a follow-up, Anthony,
Yeah,
to what you're
yeah.
saying? How did you, just to be real, like, how did you get their numbers? Did you look on IMDb Pro or something? Or did you do some research for the 6 that you identified as, like, these are my guys because maybe they had people that you wanted to be at the level of talent that they already represented? Or what was your process in even choosing the 6 that you targeted? And then how did you get their phone numbers? And then you just mustered up, you just called them up.
It's a tricky thing, right? Because, you know, at that place and in that moment, we all feel like we are there. We're ready. We got it, you know, and can't no one tell you differently. And so I, you know, kind of leaned on friends that I trusted, you know. Of course, I didn't entertain getting management or representation until I started directing. And so when I had my first, my directorial debut, it happened in several different ways. The producer, director on the show that I was doing saw something in me and called his agent and said, you should, you know, sit down with this guy and take a look at him. The executive producer on the show, she gave me a list of people who she respected and who, you know, she felt handled business correctly, would return phone calls, and just had a really great work ethic. And so she reached out to some people for me on my behalf. I also called and asked some friends who were directors that I knew really well to take a look at my director's cut and give me really hard, great criticism. And from that, I asked them would they mind trying to set up a meeting with their agent for me, if they felt that it was right. And some of them did, you know, and that's kind of where it started. Of course, some of those calls, I really felt like they were just appeasing their client to meet with me, because it was so cold when I came in the room. It was like they clearly did not want me or was ready for me, or I was ready for them, you know. So everything happens for a reason. And I kind of feel like the 3 that I met were the best 3 that I, you know, could entertain or choose between at the time. And I took a minute to really kind of figure out my decision. It was hard, you know, because it is that thing where it is a big step and it's a big deal. And I had to continue to go back to that voice of Vanessa telling me it's not a marriage. You don't have to stay with it, you know. So that allowed me to kind of be a little freer in trying to decide who I was going to go with. But also, you know, then it was, again, remembering, I think at the time it was UTA, ICM, Endeavor, who is where I am and I've been since I started. Now it's WME and Paradigm. I think it was actually 4 that I got to choose between. So, you know, it just happened that way for me. So, you know, yeah. Did I answer your question?
You make it look so easy. You make it look so easy.
It's not. You know, it really isn't. You know, you know, I go into my secret closet at home and cry, you know. It's not easy. It really isn't, you know. I mean, there are things today that I still question on why isn't this happening, or why is this the same, or whatever. And, you know, it's that matter of trying to really understand, you know, the relationship. I think the bottom line is, honestly, agents are deal makers, and that's the thing that was the biggest misconception for me to learn, because you go into this thing and realize that, you know, agents are going to do this for you, they're going to do that for you, and you know, it really is all about what you're doing. You know, they're there to really help facilitate and help you, you know, go from A to B, but it really falls on you and your gift, your talent, your performance, your work ethic, your everything, and how you leave a job. You know, you perform terrible, you're not gonna get asked back. And so there's so many things that along the way you build yourself, you know, and they're there to help facilitate and I think nurture and help carry you through that. But it was hard because, you know, it's this whole misconception of what is an agent and what do they do and what is an agent different from a manager at the start of it, when you don't know. And so it's like, well, which one do I choose? Or so it is that thing. And if there are those questions out here to kind of loosely answer that for you, it's like, I really feel that agents really are deal makers. They are there to kind of
Get in the way.
be the bulldog. All right, Eric. Don't promote that. And managers are supposed to really help cultivate your career. They're supposed to do more than what agents really kind of do or whatever. It's still such a gray area because I do have an agent that I do push to do things. I don't think sometimes it doesn't instantly or happen until I ask. But because I don't have a manager, I do push him and ask him for things sometimes. But of course, also, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone myself and make a call. So,
yeah, if you don't, just really quick to echo that, if you don't have representation, agent or manager, or it's kind of not in your radar yet, it is still very important to find legal representation. Because, again, this goes back to the whole thing. Make sure you're covering yourself and protecting yourself. And it's worth a couple of grand to have someone look over a contract that could be a huge difference in the end. So, whatever you have to do, to borrow from your parents, or if you have a side job, hopefully that's another thing. If you're a filmmaker, hopefully you have a side job, please. So, number one, you can pay your rent and not make horrible, desperate decisions based on not being able to feed yourself. I see that a lot with people who are like, no, I'm a director. I can't work at a restaurant or ride an Uber. I'm like, well, you're going to fail miserably because they're going to make some terrible decision based completely on fear and desperation. And you can smell that a mile away. So my advice is, if you're a creative, if you're a director or whatever, find a gig in the industry, learn editing, learn graphic design, learn something so you're constantly perfecting your craft while you're reaching towards your main goal, whatever it may be, and being able to feed yourself. I think that's a huge overlooked concept in this industry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, both of you work really hard. What do you do when it comes to burnout? First part of the question. And your love, is it more towards television or film? Do you debate on which one to do?
I mean, I only know film, but I watch more series. So I have a huge interest in going down that path, So learning from someone like Anthony is incredibly important. That's another thing. Try to find a mentor if you can, even if it's just a half mentor, or just one. Every now and then they'll answer an email, something. It's better than nothing. Just cold call emails. Swear to God, it works sometimes. But sometimes it's better than none, though. And I mean, really, it's just about that hustle. Like, how hungry are you? But for me, like, I want to learn everything. I came from an editing background. I've been editing for 12 years. Pivoted that into producing independent features because it seemed the most accessible to me at the time. But now, obviously, I'm developing TV programs as well. It's a natural kind of progression. But I think I'll end up doing both. I think that's kind of what we all want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I love both mediums. I always have. I think it has changed over time. It's all about the storytelling and the material that you're doing. That's what speaks to me. I don't judge it based on the canvas. So it's really about the material for me. I forgot your first question. Yes. Oh, dear Jesus. Yeah, when I said earlier, like, self-care is so important, and everyone's different in terms of what they can do, what their stamina is, what you can, really do. I feel like I'm always burnt out.
Yeah, I echo that. Constant burnout. Sorry.
I mean, I am, again, here is something where I feel like I found my purpose, and this is a priority for me, and I love what I get to participate in and what I get to do. So it's almost no limit for me, and people tell me I'm a machine all the time, but there are times that it really, it catches up to you, and you have to be careful. You do need to be, take care of yourself and find that balance. all work and no play makes what?
Anthony, a dull boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I'm obsessed as well. I think you kind of have to be. You actually absolutely have to be to really make it in this town. But what I find myself doing is when I'm burning out on projects that I'm currently working on is I'll just go and read a new book and then hopefully be inspired to find my next project. And that like reinvigorates that flame in me. It's like, oh my God, I see the vision. Oh my God. Just discovery for me is the best healer, or you can even say aphrodisiac in this, kind of is, to be honest. So when I'm sick of the projects I'm working on or whatever, or I'm just dealing with some clown that I have to deal with for the next 8 months during post, I'll go and read books, just go in a corner and read. And that's.
So when I have some scripts to read, I'll send them to you, Kyle.
Hey man, let's go.
The last thing I want to
Let's
do
go.
is read something. That's admirable. Yeah, absolutely.
So for rolling with you guys talking about like leveling up, what was the moment when you went from kind of approaching your careers as an amateur? What was the turning point to where you really started to look at yourself as a professional?
I'd say for myself, I've always been very confident in who I am. And so I saw myself and really spoke what I wanted from day one. I knew what I wanted to do, and I wasn't anything going to stop me, and I was going to work really, really hard at it. But I also was aware of where I was, and, I didn't get too far, ahead of myself, but I have never been afraid to take a risk either, So I still don't consider myself to be that, if you want to give it a definition. I really don't. I'm still humble. I still am not afraid to pick up water bottles or throw trash away on the set. I started from the bottom. I started off as a PA, and went from the from a PA to the DGA and to where I am now. But I never forget my past or where I come from or what that is. I'm very hands-on, and I love the process. It's one of the things that I hate about unions sometimes because, some people frown on you when you do something, you cross the line. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the process. I'll move furniture. Whatever it takes. I don't care. Like, I just love being there and being a part of it. So for me, it's just, I don't know. I just am, I kind of get lost in it in a way where sometimes I think it's to my own detriment because I don't see myself as that, Even when I realize and know my accomplishments and what I've been blessed to do, I still have to fight. I still have to work hard. Nothing's being handed to me at all. Not yet. I hope it does, but it's funny. You ask yourself that question of when is it going to get easier? And it continues to get harder. Because more is required of you. And depending on what position or where you're going, I think it really determines that. But I do know, I used to always say when I, was PAing, I was like, man, when I become because, PAs, you do everything. You're a gopher. You're running and sweating and slaving and on whatever it takes, you're there to help the process. And I remember saying to myself, when I become a second AD, I don't have to do all of that much. And then I became a second AD, and I'm like, man, these responsibilities.
Don't become a second AD.
I was like, whoa, the load that you carry. And then through that, along that journey, I was like, when I come a first AD, I'm going to just be there and dictate to everybody that I don't want to do this anymore. I became a first AD, and it got harder. It's more responsibility. And then, of course, again, I was like, man, when I start directing, I'm just going to sit in that chair and like just tell them all what to do. I've done it, I still love doing it and rolling my sleeves up and getting dirty. I will move track, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll help lift the dolly onto the track. I don't care. I love it because I'm all in it. To me, it's no I in team, and it's all about really. I feel like for myself, if I set that bar, then everyone else can rise to where I am, So I lead the pack and lead the way and set the example for what I expect out of everyone, And if I expect that out of you, I'm going to give it to you 10 times more.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. We can clap at that.
do you want to respond to the same?
Just really quick for me, as long as there's still something for me to learn, I do not consider myself a professional. So I think that kind of attitude that you're always learning, you're always an apprentice, you're always a student, so to speak, is really a huge key to success, because not only is it humbles you, it makes you a more approachable person, but I think it just makes you, your inner core, just like a better person overall too. You don't get too cocky, and those people are the ones that slip and fall. So.
There's a question in the back. Yes.
You guys are both incredible, and I love you both.
Hi, Alex Gambati.
Hi. I have a question for Kyle about between Dee Rees and Rachel Morrison. You have a female director, and for the first time, a female that was nominated for an Oscar. For
Give it up for Rachel Morrison.
I wanted to know if it was a conscious choice to hire a female director and DP.
Absolutely. Well, we went into it. I mean, who here has seen Mudbound, by the way? Okay, cool. I'm disappointed in the rest of you. I would say, even though it's a true ensemble and it's 3 males and 3 females, for me, and I think for all of the producers from the very beginning, and the writer is a female, it always had a female perspective. Overall, I felt, and it was really, really important for us to find a female director. And there's incredible female talent out there in every department. So it was a huge deal for us to find female department heads as much as possible. So we found Rachel, even our line producer, 2 of our main producers were female. Our sound engineer, Pud, is incredible. And so Angie, our hair and makeup, I'm sorry, she's just makeup. As many as we possibly could, and I think we did a very good job of doing that. And I think it proved that this should not be a male-dominated field in no sense of the word. So it made me more excited to work with females, and that's exactly what I'm doing. One of my next projects is super top secret. I can't say it right now, but it has a female director, and we're very excited about that. So
I'm ready.
everybody, Anthony Hemingway is directing our new In a Dress.
Yeah.
Having been in positions where you're at the top of the food chain, I'm curious to hear your guys' perspective on the power of setting the proper culture for any given production, and how that has kind of a ripple effect from the top down.
It's really interesting. I think we are now coming to a place where more people are starting to understand and to see the effects of the lack of inclusion and the lack of diversity that has been around from the beginning of time. I had a friend say to me the other day, she said, this doesn't fall, lightly on me or on deaf ears, but she said, I finally see what it felt like for you your whole life. And so it has been something that has definitely been a consciousness of myself to make sure that I am, one, doing and being the example, I think, to help open those doors for many others to come behind me and have an opportunity. It has been definitely a priority for me to make sure that I was, helping pave the way. I was very much aware that I was standing on shoulders and backs of many that came before me that allowed me to be able to be in this seat and to have this opportunity, so it doesn't come lightly or I don't forget. And it's just a necessity, I think, for us to continue to find those opportunities to be inclusive and to make sure that we are giving opportunity, because I think once we do that, people have an opportunity to really have better self-worth and opportunity that hopefully will help change a lot of what we've dealt with, in the past. So, it was always something for myself to try to find the opportunities of being very inclusive and making sure that we were really paying attention to the choices that we were making and crewing, not only for the specific jobs that look like and necessitated that you needed to have that. It's the funny thing all the time where I'm like, I'll get called for every black job there is, and I'm like, I can do other things too, and it's just a matter of, I think, you doing that and showing that and proving it. You know, I've told, back to kind of talking about the young actors that we had in Unsolved, the young guys played Tupac and Biggie, and I told them, as they were entering into this for the first time, what was their vision in terms of where they wanted to see themselves go? Once they, you know, figured that out and knew that answer, it should hopefully then help them, you know, figure out how to commit and do the work to make sure that they were not, you know, put in a box to only be able to portray or perform Biggie and Tupac. You know, it was a thing of telling them to make sure that they could go and show a range where people saw talent, you know, and not just a limitation of something, you know, being an archetype or whatever. But I think just making sure that I think we just all continue to really find the opportunity to open the door and create opportunity. I said a lot, I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, you said it. You said it, man. You said all of it.
Great. Question right here.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for sharing. That's awesome. My question is about producing. Like, I'm going to use your example. You said you were working in the film industry, editing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, oh, I'm going to make produce indie films.
Mm-hmm.
When you made that jump, did you have the producing knowledge already, or where did you find that, oh, how do I do this? Or
Hell no. You don't. There's nowhere to find it. You just got to jump in like a crazy person. I mean, that's it. You just go in and you know you're going to fail miserably, but maybe at the end of that you'll succeed. Which is, you know, it's kind of a counterintuitive way to look at it, but it really is. I mean, you just got to say, I'm going to do this, and you just figure it out along the way, and, you know, you'll end up meeting people. I mean, as an editor, I was meeting producers, and I was in the room with producers and directors. Like, that's just the nature of being an editor. Like, you're almost like the second director in a way. So there was already kind of like a trust level with me creatively. And there was a confidence in me as well, how to deal with producers and watching them. And as you know, you're editing and they're constantly on the phone, and you're like telling them to shut up, but you're hearing their conversations. And like, so you're like, oh, like, it's just really just working people and like figuring stuff out, problem solving. Like, I can do that. So, I mean, fundamentally, it's nothing crazy. The biggest thing is just like getting a project off the ground is just, there's so many different facets to it, and you have to be able to spin so many different plates, and you have to hear no way more times than you ever thought you'd imagine hearing no. But at the end of that, there's a yes, and then you just keep building and building and building and building. And it's just the most ridiculous grind ever, but it gets to a point where it's very, very fun. Yeah, just keep going.
I used to always say that my best jobs were my worst jobs, you know, because a lot of times they made me work harder. I got to see what I didn't want to become. And it was a lot of that, I think, you know, that was as beneficial as rarely do you find that job where it's just like, oh my God, it's on 10 the whole time, where it's just you're with the best group of people and you're having fun every day. You know, it's going to be hard work and it's going to be struggles and hardships. But I would say that there's something to learn out of everything. You know, I never regretted or look back and was mad at any of those opportunities, because they really helped me grow, you know, and they help you learn, you know, even your own mistakes. And it's about being open about that, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. We all make mistakes. We're human, you know, and it's just a matter of just learning from it and moving on.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Do either of you have a great memory of a moment where you directed an actor and it was like an aha moment where you really saw something special come out in the actor and it was great for both of you?
I'm not a director, so this is yours. Oh, that's actually a good point. Yeah. I mean, just coming from a producer standpoint, you know, let's just using Mudbound as an example here. So we're sitting, you know, we're at Macro, Charles King, Cassian Oes, D. Reese is sitting at the head of the table, all the producers. We're talking about casting this movie. And we're all like, who's going to play the African-American father? And, you know, all the typical names come out. It's like, you know, Don Cheadle. You know, like, you go down the list, and D. Reese is like, nope. And we're like, we have to sell this movie. And she's like, nope, Rob Morgan. We're like, who? She's like, Rob Morgan. And so literally she would text pictures of Rob Morgan to us. Like, we'd wake up on our phone and we'd be like, it's fucking Rob Morgan again? But you get to that point and we're like, fine, he's in. Jeez, leave me alone. But then he's like the greatest actor alive. You know, he becomes your favorite actor and a close friend. And you're like, that guy's going in everything I'll ever do. And so as a producer, it's discovering good people who are extremely talented that you just want them to succeed more than your own self. You're like, I'll do anything to help that person because you just love them so much. And so that's the excitement for me. I think that's where the magic, you grind, but the magic comes in the actual personal relationships. And like seeing a DP just like nail the shot. You're like, yes, you know, or seeing that actor just crush the scene, or discovering a new actor or something. All that for me is just like the best. Yeah.
That you brought up a point that it's always scary in a producer's room because you mentioned name. Can you talk more about that fear of, like, you guys went with Rob and you know, he was on Daredevil. He's, you know, part of the Netflix stuff, but he's not a major name.
Right. Not yet.
Right. But I always believe he was. But you're mentioning something that is always scary with producers. Like, you guys took the chance, and to me it worked out. But can you talk more about that? Because I think that's a scary thing in making film. I
mean, independent film and even studio films, and you can talk more about this, but it's a numbers game, unfortunately. And every choice you make is like, well, are we going to be able to finance that? Is that going to move the needle in foreign sales? Like, every conversation is like, does that move the needle in foreign sales? You get sick of hearing that phrase. But it's just the nature of the business. Unless you can find, you know, some billionaire that just wants to bankroll, you know, creative projects, you know, most of the time you have to kind of, you're pigeonholed into those formulas, right? But every now and then, as a producer, if you fight hard enough, you get the opportunity to convince somebody of someone's talent and let them shine, right? And that, again, goes back to what we were saying with Rob. He was a discovery for us, but he became someone that we rooted for and like will continue to root for forever. So, and that opened up my eyes as well as a young producer. Is like, now I see how that works, and I can say, listen, this is what we did with that, and I'm going to do it again right now. So you better listen to me. And that, you just keep moving forward like that, and eventually those opportunities keep opening up for discovery. So
I love rooting for the underdog. I really do. It's so exciting. I mean, we see amazing, gifted, talented people all the time, and it's just beautiful. But I love seeing people who get the chance to just find their moment and to find their platform and win. It's so beautiful. A couple people that just came to my mind that make me smile every time I think about them is, one, Aisha Hines is a friend of mine who I saw do what many of us do. We go from job to job and hustling and doing, improving and laying it all out and going home. And, you know, it's the increments that come and happen and build up, and then you finally get blessed with that moment and opportunity, and to just share what's been there the whole time, you know. Again, I feel like everything happens for a reason. It's just sometimes it's not your time or your moment, you know, and you have to be, you know, find that comfort with understanding that and knowing that, you know. But I also remember Sarah Paulson is someone, I worked with her. We met when we were both 19 years old. I was my first job in the DGA. I was a second AD, and it was her very first job acting. And she was a beast then. And I remember, it's so funny how even just the two names that I just mentioned, like Sarah, Aisha, went to LaGuardia in New York, performing arts school. I was supposed to go there had I not moved out of New York after my sister passed. And it's just so funny seeing that little circle of people that you kind of vibe and circle around for a long time. But I love watching. I mean, there's so many people that I can sit and just be like, oh my God. They are so amazing. I mean, I just finished working with Jimmy Simpson on Unsolved, and every day I watch the layers peel over and over and over again, and it's just so mesmerizing to watch. Someone who comes in, I mean, it's really, again, like Kyle was saying, it's in every aspect of it. I enjoy watching people do what they love to do. It's exciting. and it's fun. It just continues to inspire each other, you know, and it's just really great at it. I love getting in the editing room and just being wowed and amazed by the gifts and the talents that you have to tell the story from where you sit, you know, and it's just that contribution that I think becomes really awesome, where everyone gets to collaborate. Just craft service who really understands and knows and pays attention to everyone and knows, you know, the right foods to put out. You know, it's like they're great at that. They know how to nurture. It's just, it goes on and on and on and on. It's so exciting to just watch. But yeah, it is. I think once it's frustrating when you get into that process of trying to develop and get things going, when you have to think about the people who are actually paying the money for it, and of course they want to make sure they're thinking about their money in return, you know, and of course they're looking at it from that perspective, but you're looking at it from the creative perspective of saying and believing that I believe in this person and I know they can deliver. And you have to sometimes, you know, you have to pick and choose your battles at all times. And I just also, again, an advice that was given to me a long time ago was fight for what you believe. And just do it.
We've only got about 5 minutes left, so who's looking to level up? Right there in the back. Yes, sir.
With so many varied projects that you guys have done, what would you love an audience to take away from your work? Does that keep you hungry? What would you love for an audience to feel or emote?
I mean, this kind of goes back to the first thing I said. Like, in the beginning, I just wanted to make stuff. And now I want to make stuff that makes people feel and be like, dude, you got to see this. That's the most important thing for me now. So, you know, really human stories, true stories even. I've got 3 true stories that I'm in the middle of, you know, some are being optioned from the novel, some are screenplays already done, some are the screenplays are being worked on right now. But I'm just so into incredible true stories, just about real humans that we can all relate to, you know, David versus Goliath type stuff or whatever. It could be anything, but something that people will watch and go, you have to see this. I'm sorry, like stop what you're doing and watch it right now. That to me is my ultimate goal moving forward.
I am in such agreement. I think it's a continued effort to find the voices that are not heard. And trying to really find those opportunities to give voice to culture, the people, the person, the thing, whatever that is that's important to you. And I do feel like I have a kind of common denominator between the projects that I do work on that really share that. So it is about really reflecting where we are. Like, I feel like we're in such a crazy time right now in the world, and I'm looking to try to find things that we can inspire and really help remind us of just the hope and the ability to kind of, you know, smile and be happy and love again. And so that's definitely what I continue to try to find in my work.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I really want to thank you guys really
Thank
for
you.
bringing it. Like, that was fantastic. Let's give a big hand. Thank you so much.